Hello, everybody. I am going to do my best to explain May as briefly as possible and make sure I hit all the highlights. I know that there have been a lot of questions around our upcoming testing for STAR, AP, and final exams. So hopefully this presentation will clarify some of the questions that you have. I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance. I'm having to do this from my house, and I can't guarantee that this will be an uninterrupted presentation. But you may get a little ad lib from a 4- and 6-year-old who I'm sure could sum up STAR quite well. So let's get started going through this. As you know, the testing is a little more than 2 weeks away, and we will make sure that we get more information out every day. I also want to explain, attached to this email, you found a Google Doc. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is get out a sheet of paper, and as we go through the presentation, write down questions that you may have. If I don't answer your question by the end of the PowerPoint, then what I'd like for you to do is type that question into the Google Doc. I'm sure that there are lots of people who have the same questions that you do, and so what I'm hoping to do is send out a frequently asked questions, an FAQ every day, and answer those questions for you. There is no bad question at this point because this is new, and your questions will help me to think through some of the logistical things that I maybe haven't thought out. I am excited about the opportunity to get all testing done by May 17th, actually May 15th. And then spend the rest of the year doing what we all signed up to do, which is teaching and learning and just enjoying our jobs. So, with that said, let's get started. I know your question is, how are we going to pull this off? Because there's lots of moving pieces that are going to happen over the course of time, May 6th to May 17th. And so my hope is that I answer those questions for you. So the general structure of the day, which you've seen before, is from 7:50 to 11:05, we will be testing. And then at 11:05 is a typical like B or C day, where we're going to pick up with the last 2 periods of the day on a rotation that's not necessarily what we're used to, but it's not going to be very different from a normal day. So you'll still have 90-minute periods, and you'll see your classes twice over those 2 weeks. So I know that this structure, when you look at it, 7:50 to 11:05 testing, 11:10 to 11:40 is A lunch based on 5th period. 11:10 to 12:45 is going to be 5th period if they had B lunch, 12:50 to 1:20 being B lunch, and then 1:25 to 3 o'clock being the typical 7th period. But your question is probably not about this general structure. My guess is that your question is about what is that 7:50 to 11:05 time going to look like, and that's what I'm hoping to clarify today. So from 7:50 to 11:05, like I said, we're going to be testing. Every teacher will be assigned a group, and the groups will be assigned by grade level. And we should be done with that. It's a pretty complicated assignment, and I'm confident that by the end of this week, if not on Monday, which I know you'll all be resting, you will know what grade level you're testing. Every teacher will be assigned a group by grade level, and you'll test the same kids all 6 days of testing. So it's not like every day you're going to be looking for a new group of kids. We'll do a dry run the Friday before testing starts. You'll receive a group by grade level, and those are the kids that you will see all 6 days of testing. So, on Monday, May 6th, your group of kids that you're assigned will be doing one of the following things. If they're a 9th grader, then they'll be taking an elective final. If they're a 10th grader, then they will be escorted to the gyms, and they will be taking their math STAR test in the gym. And if they're an 11th or 12th grader, they'll be taking their science final exam. So you can see that once you know what grade level you're testing and the group of kids that you're going to have for those 6 days, you can follow the chart that I'll resend out to you as to what final they're taking every day. And I keep saying this over and over again because it's probably the most confusing part, but you'll have the same kids all 6 days. And we're not testing based on a period throughout the day. We're testing based on the master that was sent out that has what test will be taken on what day. So during that time, 9th, 11th, and 12th grade teachers will receive final exams. There will be a location that you'll be asked to pick them up from. And it'll be similar to a testing situation, like when we give the STAR or the tax test. You'll show up. There'll be a folder or a bucket with all the finals that you need. and then kids will take those finals. There will be no directions read if you're just issuing finals. Of course, if you're giving a STAR exam, there's the manual and all that fun stuff. But you'll receive those finals. Students will take the final from 7:50 to 9:50. So it's just like the finals that we, if you're new, finals typically are 2 hours. And so for 2 hours, kids will test. From 9:50 to 10, there will be a 10-minute break. And again, this is mirroring the final exams that we typically do at the end of the year, the 2-hour final. And then kids will return to your room from 10 to 11:05. It says 11, but it's 11:05 for a study hall. Every kid in the school will have some sort of test they're getting ready for on the next day, whether that be an AP exam, a STAR exam, or a final exam. And so that hour time is for them to regroup, get ready for the next day, and also get ready for those long classes that they have every day. During that study hall time, it'll be really crucial that kids stay in your room and study. You'll have a grade level, so you'll be able to say, tomorrow you will be taking this test. So everybody needs to be preparing for whatever that test is. And so you'll take a break for 10 minutes during that week. You'll take a break for 10 minutes from that 9:50 to 10 if you're a final exam teacher. If you're a STAR testing teacher, so if you're testing a 9th or 10th grade STAR, we will have a relief schedule. We'll test straight through. There will not be a 10-minute break. As you know, we can't give a break from finals. I guess I'm trigger happy and I keep moving to the next slide. But there won't be a break from STAR testing like there are all the other tests. We're prepared to test 4 hours for kids, hoping to get started as close to 8 o'clock or 8:15 as we can. But we are going to be ready to hold kids past that 11:05 if they're a STAR kid. But what we found is that the tests that are left in May tend to be a little bit shorter tests. So we're just going to monitor it like we've been doing, like we're doing this week with tax. And when we feel like we've got enough people that can cover it, or we can call in some backup and release kids to their classrooms, we're going to try to honor the instructional time as much as we can. So then I'm showing you May 7th, which looks just like May 6th, except instead of having 5th and 7th period at the end of the day, you can see that we've picked up to 4th and 6th period at the end of the day. It's the same idea as May 6th. It's different courses that we're going to be testing, but the same testing group. And I keep saying that same group of kids will show up. It's not based on a period. It's based on that chart. So on May 7th, our 9th graders will now take the STAR math test. And 10th through 12th graders will take an elective final that day. And so the same thing that we just talked about on that slide that I kept going back and forth to, whatever your grade level is assigned that day is what you will do. They'll take a final from 7:50 to 9:50, 10-minute break, and then from 10 to 11:05, they'll return to the room for a study hall to prepare for the next day. This pattern repeats for all 6 days of testing. And so we'll look at the chart in a minute. Actually, we'll look at it right now. So you can see that this is the chart that's been emailed out that probably didn't make a whole lot of sense until you hear this explanation. I will attach it to the email. We don't anticipate having to make too many changes to it, but we're still making sure that we can honor the courses that we put on what day. Once you've turned in your finals, we'll see what kind of accommodations. Our biggest concern as far as logistics is around calculators for science and math to make sure that we have enough so that we can do, so that kids that are taking the STAR or the AP test have the calculators they need, but that we can also accommodate for kids that are taking final exams that need calculators, that we can accommodate for those as well. So this is the schedule, and you can see May 7th, I explained earlier, 10th through 12th will take an elective final, 9th will take the math STAR, and then that same day is AP Spanish and Art History. AP Art History is going on. May 8th, 11th through 12th graders will be taking their math final. 9th graders are going back to an elective final. 10th graders are taking the Social Studies STAR test, and that same day is the AP Calculus test for both BC and AB Calculus. May 9th is a C day, and it's a little modified. You see second period twice that day. And then under the STAR, you see makeups. And this is not makeups for final exams. Kids who miss a final will have to find during intervention the next week and get them caught up. But what this makeup time is for kids who missed the 9th grade, 10th grade math STAR test or the 10th grade social studies STAR. The state gives us a 2-week window that we can test these kids in. And so our goal is that we test for 3 days and then we try to get as many tests made up as we can. Then we test for 3 more days and get those tests made up so that at the end of the 2-week period we can call it done and that we don't have any kids that haven't had the opportunity to take that state test that we know they're looking forward to. May 13th through the 17th runs just like May 6th through the 10th. There is an assigned final during that time. There's an assigned STAR test during that time. And there is an AP test that will be given during that same window. A couple things to remember about why the final schedule looks like this. If a student in 9th or 10th grade is taking a STAR, you probably remember that they didn't get to apply for exemptions this year, and that's because we're counting the STAR test as their final exam grade. It won't go in the grade book as a grade because we don't receive the STAR test results until probably your last day of work, but their final grade will be based on their 3rd 9 weeks and 4th 9 weeks grade, and we're saying that the STAR test is counting as a final comprehensive exam. The same logic goes for students who are taking AP courses this year. If a student enrolled in the AP exam, then their grade also is going to be based on the 3rd 9 weeks and 4th 9 weeks grade, and the fact that they're sitting for the AP test is counting for a cumulative final. And I will tell you, we're very encouraged by our AP exam numbers this year. We've increased them by 200%, and it's just giving kids that confidence and kind of giving a little push to take these exams since they've been sitting in these classes all year and we know they're really well prepared and that they're going to do great on these exams. So as we move through that 2nd week, I point out again that we have makeups. Oh, I have dogs too, so you're hearing, I don't know what my neighbors are doing, but it's obviously not appropriate for the presentation. So got distracted. I'm back. So then we have makeups on May 16th and 17th for kids who missed the STAR test. Again, that B day and C day is a little modified, and I'll make sure that we do a really good job of communicating out so that you can put on your calendars what extra classes we have. It's I want to say that on the B day that's just a normal 1, 3, 5, 7, and then on the C day we see 2, 4, 6, and we see 7 again. And that's just to ensure that you see all of your classes the same amount of time during those 2 weeks. Some things to remember, just some general items for courses, primary electives, or for, I guess this isn't things to remember, this is things you should know. For some courses, mostly electives, there will be no final, no written final. Not that teachers don't have a final, but some of our courses like art and some of our fine arts and performing arts are giving their finals in class because it's something that they can't do in your room. And for those courses, we know that that can cause a little bit of a complication, having kids that are supposed to be taking a final exam and they have no test in your room. So what we're going to do is we're going to assign you within your grade level. So if you're a 9th grade teacher, we may assign you 3 other 9th grade buddy teachers that you can look through your kids that morning and say, I've got finals for these kids. And one of you take the kids that don't have a final assigned, and 2 others take the kids that do have a final assigned. And that way, you're not fighting 2 battles in the same room during that time. And like it says on here, your team of 3 or 4 teachers can work together on elective days to group students so that students who do not have a final can be separated from those who do. And this is one of the things that came up in some really good questions from different departments about what are we going to do if my kid doesn't have a final or they can't take a final in a classroom. And this is I think the best way to separate those kids. Exemptions, this only applies to 11th and 12th grade teachers, or if you have an 11th or 12th grade group, you will have students. Juniors and seniors were both, the letters went out yesterday, and so they're starting to you're getting some kids coming by saying, do I have an 80 or above in your classroom? And they're getting you to sign a letter so that they can apply for their exemptions. Teachers will be notified. You will be notified through grade level offices, probably a spreadsheet that will be sent to you that says Johnny, Susie, and Jose qualified for an exemption in your classroom. If you're a testing teacher, because your testing groups are not necessarily kids you have every day, we'll make sure that somewhere on your roster you are notified that Johnny will not be with you today because he is exempt from the final exam that's being given. And we're still working out the logistics of what exactly a kid that's exempt will get to do. But that's not something that you have to stress about. That's just another piece of this really big puzzle that we're going to figure out so that this is as smooth as possible. AP tests, just a little bit on AP tests. AP tests are coordinated through Miss Jenkins, and students will be pulled to AP to take the AP test. They'll make up their finals through intervention if they owe one that's given on AP final day. But I will tell you, we did our absolute best. So, for example, on May 6th, that first day that we talk about, I'm going to go back to May 6th, and it says what kids are doing. And it says that 11th and 12th graders are taking the science final. Well, that same day is the AP Chemistry and AP Physics B test. And so a lot of those kids, AP kids that would typically be pulled from the final exam to go take the AP test are actually all grouped together, and it is the final for science that day. So hopefully all it does is make it easier to locate those kids, and they miss less class time because they're taking their AP test at the same time the science test would be given. And that same logic is true for AP Calculus, AP Spanish, and then also for like AP U.S. History is the same day as the 11th grade Social Studies, or close to the same day as 11th grade Social Studies. It is the same day as 11th grade Social Studies. And so all we're trying to do there is minimize the movement and the complication, although it is complicated, of who's missing in your testing group. So, I know that this is a unique way of presenting the information to you, and I know that some of you have been dying to know what's going on. And it's, as with anything new, there's a lot of, I'm working through the questions and logistics as best as I can. I want this to be a positive experience for everybody, and I think we told you that from day one, that we really want these final exams and STAR testing and AP testing, everything, although it will be a disruption for 6 of the 10 days over the 2-week period. To think that when that last day is done, May 15th, when we take those last STAR tests and all we've got is a couple of makeups and some AP tests going on, the reality is we go into a very stress-free environment until the end of the year where, as I said it earlier, we get to just teach and enjoy teaching and not be so worried about the disjointed schedule that happens when you involve senior finals and then regular finals and STAR testing and AP testing. We're just kind of ripping the Band-Aid off and getting it all done at once. So what's next? Like I said at the beginning, I hope you wrote down some questions, and if I didn't answer them, that you take the opportunity to type in your questions onto the Google Doc. I will answer those questions daily and then probably send out a whole school email with just the daily questions. Here's what I got. Here's the answers to the questions. I'm going to be very honest. If I don't know an answer to a question, I'm going to think about it and try to figure out the best way to answer it or try to plan for it. Your team leaders, your lead team leads, have been asking for finals, and those have been sent to me. We are going to start working to, as we form these groups, get the finals copied and make sure that things are as smooth as possible when you issue your finals. I'm trying to make sure that I cover everything else. On March 30th, I believe it's March 30th, that's a Tuesday, we have STAR training. The purpose of STAR training is to really do STAR training. We have to do one more training. It won't be nearly as exciting as the funeral you got to participate. We could call it a baby shower, but STAR came last year, so I don't think that it would be nearly as fun if we did a baby shower to celebrate the birth of STAR, because that actually happened last year. But we've got to go over some of the logistics. You know, last year we gave 3 tests at this time. This year we're giving 6 tests, which is very different. And so the point of that will be really to go over the logistics of STAR and make sure that you understand the rules that live within the STAR world. I'm hoping that most of the May questions can be issued through the FAQs and the Google Doc. But if there are some that need to be addressed, we will definitely take that time to do that. So make sure that at that faculty meeting, that if I haven't answered your question, that you come with it, and that by that time you'll know your testing group and have a much clearer idea of what's going on. I do want to remind you that faculty meeting does happen after a long weekend, and I hate having faculty meetings after a long weekend because I know that Tuesday morning feels like a Monday morning and you're running around, but it's one that you need to really put on your calendar and make sure that you're there and ready to go and focus so that we can get information to you. So with that said, I'm going to wrap things up because I don't want this video to take forever, but I hope that it did answer the questions that you have about the May testing. I appreciate all the work you do every day and the patience that you have with me and the people that help me to organize these tests. We try to make these testing times a positive experience for you, and I look forward to what I believe will be a great way to get everything done and out of the way, and like I said, into that time where I can just go into classrooms and watch you guys teach and love what you do. So have a wonderful, whatever time it is. It could be morning, afternoon, or night, depending on when you watch this video, and talk to you later. Bye. I don't know how to turn this off. Let's see. Well, that's not good.